Hey Megamaniacs, this is Mr. MegaManFan, and welcome back to the PC Engine Files, where I'm doing something a little different this week. I've got to admit, as much as I like the Super SD System 3, capturing footage on a tripod of my TV was not producing the kind of quality that I really preferred. I could always go back to it later if it's demanded, but I think for now I'm going to switch to capturing PC Engine footage on my computer and syncing up the audio and video for the best possible quality and framing it with a nice Mega Man border on either side for appearances, which may be helpful considering I absolutely stink at this game, at least at the beginning. This game is called Gokuruku Chuka Taisen, or perhaps just call it Cloudmaster, because it's known as Cloudmaster on other platforms, including Sega Master System, but I don't recommend that version, nor the remake, which was curiously enough called The Monkey King and came out on Nintendo Wii in the mid to late 2000s. I don't recommend that version either. The only version of Cloudmaster that you really should play is the one for PC Engine, which never got released here in the United States on TurboGrafx 16, but with a Super SD System 3 or a PC Engine card converter, you can of course play it. Let me tell you a little bit about the game from the Wikipedia entry for said game. Ahem. Chuka Taisen is a horizontal scrolling shooter released for arcades by Taito in 1988. The Famicom version is titled Chuka Taisen and was not available in the United States for the Nintendo Entertainment System. The player controls Mike Chen floating on a cloud, maneuvering around the screen, and shooting balls of energy at flying enemies. Power-ups can be collected for stronger, faster firepower. Some parts of the game have doors that give the player opportunities to buy special bomb types with collectible credits. Each stage has its own mini-boss and big boss. Throughout the stages, the player restarts at certain checkpoints after losing a life. Here you can see an example of a mid-stage boss as opposed to a big boss, and when this boss is defeated, the aforementioned special door opens up. What this reminds me of is Fantasy Zone on the Sega Master System, where you collect the coins by destroying the enemies on the screen, and then every now and then you get the opportunity to enter a shop and buy limited time power-ups for your character, Opa Opa. And I will say these are also limited as well, because you can see I have a fireball shield, but it barely lasts and then I'm dead again, so maybe that wasn't the ideal power-up to use. Chuka Taisen, Cloudmaster, whatever you choose to call it, is a pretty challenging game. But this is the kind of challenge I was talking about in Psycho Chaser, where it's a rewarding challenge because if you get better, you can get further. And if you get further, you want to get better. It's a self-feeding cycle that rewards you for improvement. So you have to manage a lot of different obstacles on the screen at one time. This flying food can shoot you, so you have to be careful to move out of the way of its bullet spray. I don't know how food sprays bullets, but it does, so you have to avoid that. Then there are ground-based enemies that can fire upward at you. Then there are obstacles you can get trapped behind on the ground if you're strafing too low on the ground and don't keep mindful of where you are positioned, so you can get literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. So there are many ways to die, many enemy patterns to learn and memorize, many different things that you need to accomplish to get good at Cloudmaster. But because the game rewards you for getting better and gives you a very pleasant appearance and aesthetic and sound, it tends to, encourage repeat play, because I think this one is borderline to being a cute 'em up, which also fits in with the Fantasy Zone comparison I made a moment ago. There's just something charming about your protagonist flying around on a cloud. It's got a very Dragon Ball quality to it. It's charming. Even the fact that food is flying at you is charming. It makes no sense whatsoever to mix dragons and flying food and winged angels and all these different things together in a shoot 'em up. But John Tron described this best in one of his videos. He was like, the Japanese have some crazy shit. They lived alone on an island for thousands of years. And I saw a movie once where Tom Hanks became best friends with a ball. A ball! And he only was on an island for a year or two. So this strikes me as an example of that. Like, this is where the creative inventiveness of Japanese culture is put to full display, where they unapologetically mix all these disparate elements together. You've got some anime, some shoot 'em up, some side-scrolling action, some power-up systems, and you put it all in a blender and mix it up and pour it out, and what do you get? You get Cloudmaster. I don't know if this was a big hit in the arcades for Taito, but I feel like this could have been a cult classic if it had ever been properly distributed in the United States. As I noted with Psycho Chaser, there's certainly some limitations to that because there's no anime tie-in, there's no marketing push that would have gone along with this. But because of the fact that you don't really need a working knowledge of Japanese to play this game, the localization would have been a fairly easy task. And the style of the gameplay and the cuteness of the game in the whole, the music, the sound, the graphics, everything, it would have found an audience. Would it have found a huge audience? Would it have made tremendous profits that would have just made everybody involved rich beyond avarice? No, probably not. But I think this one would have been a cult classic if it had come out here. I think years later, people would fondly remember and they'd be like, oh, hey, that game Cloudmaster? That was pretty kick-ass. They should do a remake of that. Which, ironically, they did on Nintendo Wii, and quite frankly, that version of it is just not good because it doesn't have the charming 8 to 16-bit style this version does. It tries to show off some graphical processing power by doing a tilting thing with the display, which is totally unnecessary, and changing the character of Mike Chen into a monkey and renaming it Monkey King, I feel like that's actually a disservice to the source material. Even though the source material is totally wacky, at least it's original in its wackiness. This whole China meets Japan type aesthetic they've got going on here, and they should have stuck with that instead of trying to, I don't know if you'd say westernize it or localize it, but in the process of updating it, they definitely changed what it's all about. Now, here I made a critical mistake with the boss. I forgot that by hitting the second button on the controller, you can actually flip around and face the other direction. So I was trying to only shoot it facing one direction. And eventually, I picked up on my mistake and remembered that you can flip to face the other direction regardless of where you are. It doesn't have to be a stage boss or a mid-stage boss. You can circle around and fire to the left instead of always having to fire to the right. You are not limited in that particular way. So here I finally get my shit together, start firing the correct direction, but it's already too late because I've taken too much damage and I'm out of lives. But this is a fun game. I do recommend you play it. Thanks for watching.